Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is the 27th of August, 2025. And yeah, more people are realizing that the media are lying to you over and over, propagandizing and brainwashing. Well, we're seeing through it, folks, and guess what, media moguls? You won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome to the Wednesday Hump Day, Don't You Be a Chump and Crump Day version of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist. And as always, this broadcast is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. You're doing yourself a tremendous disservice if you don't. It is technology based on Tesla frequencies, and they were basically refined by Royal Raymond Rife. He discovered that frequencies will affect cells and pathogens. Yes, cells in a positive way, pathogens in a bad way. Check it out, folks, the Wave Watch. If you go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, you can check out the Wave Watch. And if you want to save $100, use the promo code REDPILL100 if you decide to get one. Okay, that said, as always, we broadcast live from 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Do the math for the time zones in between. I'm in Mountain Time, so it's 12 noon here, actually a couple of minutes afterwards. And if you're listening live, you can always call in. The phone number here is 215-867-8255. Anyway, that said, I got a bunch of stuff I got to get to today. And first off, let me see. I don't know. There are several different topics I want to hit on today, but more and more people are starting to realize the propaganda that's been basically hoisted upon us all our entire lives. Yes, we've been lied to since our early childhood, since we started going to the public indoctrination schools. Yeah, the Department of Indoctrination. That's what I call it. So, but anyway, we're here to try to undo that, and I'm here, WTF, with the facts. I play all the audio clips so you get to hear it directly from the horse's mouth, and so you can't say, oh, well, Dave said this and Dave said that. No, I'm providing you with the information from the source, and you can connect the dots and put the puzzle pieces together on your own, hopefully. Anyway, so where do I start? Well, first of all, on Monday, we did a little math. Now, I want to start off by playing for you a quick audio clip. This whole thing is probably about 2 or 3 minutes long, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You'll get the general idea. This is several years ago. I don't know whether this is a Scottish accent or an Irish accent. But there was a guy that was going through all the old newspapers 100 years ago, more than that, 100 years ago, and there's a magic number that popped up, and it started being repeated over and over and over again. Now, remember, a lie told often enough becomes the truth. So listen to this audio of a guy going through the old newspapers. Listen to this.
As in the Sun of New York, Sunday, June the 6th, 1915.
Wow,
18 years before Hitler ever set foot in the government. There it is, people. 6 million Jews.
That was in 1915, 110 years ago.
October the 18th, 1918. And the article is called $1 billion Fund to Rebuild Jewry. There it is. 6 million souls will need help to resume normal life when war is ended. The New York Times, September the 8th, 1919.
1919.
The article is called Ukrainian Jews Aim to Stop Pogroms. Mass meeting here that 127,000 Jews have been killed
and
6 million.
6 million.
In the New York Times, November the 12th, 1919. And have reduced to tragically unbelievable poverty, starvation and disease. About 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because he goes on. He's got at least another 6 or 7 newspapers. And again, these newspapers go all the way back to the turn of the last century. 1918, 1919, 1920, 1923. And in each of these newspapers, in the Sun, in the Chicago Times, in the the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, you hear 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, 6 million, over and over again. Now, why is that number so significant? Because we've always heard, when you hear that number, 6 million, what's the first thing that comes to mind? The Holocaust. Yeah, the Holocaust. Well, I did some math, and I'll go over this again. I talked about it on Monday. I'll do it again because it's worth repeating. The quote-unquote Holocaust occurred between 1941 and 1945. That's 4 years. So if you take that 6 million, that magic number 6 million, and you do the math. Now, we were told that those 6 million souls were rounded up into concentration camps. They were sent into gas chambers, and their bodies were cremated. All right? Do the math. If you've got 6 million people divided over 4 years, that would be 3 million in 2 years, or 1.5 million in 1 year. So, do the math. If you have if you have 1.5 million souls, million bodies that you've got to cremate, you do the math, you take that 1.5 million and divide it by 365 days in a year, you would have to cremate 4,109 bodies every single day. Let that settle in. How could you possibly process 4,109 bodies in a crematorium in a day? It doesn't work. No, it doesn't. And 30 years ago, remember Montel Williams? Yeah, Montel Williams. He was doing a show, and somebody brought this subject up. And again, this is historical. This is on the Montel Williams show 30 years ago. Listen to this.
6 million Jews died.
If I could make a point now, she said the fact that 6 million Jews died. However, in 1988, the site at Auschwitz where people can go and tour the gas chambers, they lowered their figure from 4 million dead to 1 million dead. So that was 3 million taken out of the equation overnight. Where did these 3 million go? Were they never there in the first place? Were they in the camps, and did they survive? And if you can lose 3 million people overnight, who's to say that 1 million remaining figure is not also wrong?
And let me ask you this question. Weren't some of these figures ascertained after the fact because they went back and did censuses after?
The source of the famous 6 million figure is an affidavit by by somebody who was brought in at the Nuremberg trial in 1945-46. Even Raoul Hilberg, who's considered one of the major figures in the Holocaust, Holocaust historian, is professor at the University of Vermont. He concedes himself that the 6 million figure is based upon crude calculations. It is only highly dubious, and he says we must re-examine this whole question of the 6 million.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, Montel. People have heard over and over about 6 million Jews dying in Europe during the Second World War. How many people in this audience know how many Germans died during the Second World War? How many Americans died during the Second World War? How many Chinese died during the Second World War? In America, as time goes by, the more time passes, the more there's emphasis on the fate of one particular people during the Second World War, almost to the exclusion of everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, this question has been raised many, many times. I'm not the first one. And, of course, if you ask questions, if you dare to ask questions, you're a Holocaust denier. And people are actually arrested and thrown into prison for asking questions about the Holocaust. Now, I want to remind you that, and now this may sound like an unconnected topic, but there are two different kinds of Jews in this world. Okay, there are the Old Testament Jews, the ones who have the Torah, which is their Bible. Okay, and by the way, Christians and Jews, Torah Jews, we share the same heritage. We share the same 10 Commandments. We share the same prophets, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The only difference is that Christians believe that Yeshua, or Jesus, was the Son of God and he was the Messiah. Okay, well, the Torah Jews don't believe that. They do believe he was a prophet, And by the way, Muslims also believe that Yeshua or Jesus was a prophet. So the point is that the Jews of the Torah, okay, are not the Jews of the Talmud. See, that's a whole different classification of individuals who call themselves Jews. They are a lot of people say they are the fake Jews. Well, if you look at the history, and I highly suggest you go to Good Lion Films. Check out goodlionfilms.com, and they've got a short documentary. It's about 12 or 13 minutes long. It's called The Rise of the Khazars. Now, keep in mind, folks, if you don't know your history, you're destined to repeat it. So, who are the Khazars? How did they lead to become the Ashkenazis? Okay, the Khazars lived in Eastern Europe, Central Asia. And, you remember the Mongolians, Genghis Khan and all that? He was a brutal, brutal warrior. Okay, yeah. Well, guess what? The Khazars made the Mongolians look like choir boys. These were monsters. They would go in and wipe out an entire village, and they would kill every man, woman, and child out there. And then they would assume that, not only take all their stuff, but assume their identities. These are really evil, evil, bad people. And unfortunately, what happened is that they had to choose, the three major religions in the world, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And they had to hide behind one of them, and they just happened to choose Judaism. And that's where the Star of David came from. There was never a Star of David in the Old Testament. The only star that's mentioned in the book of Amos, and as a matter of fact, I got it right here, and that's in the Old Testament. In the book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 26, verse 25, it says, "Ye have offered unto me sacrifices." Let me see. Okay, no, it is 26. "But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch and Shion, your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves." So the star that we see is not a star of David. David didn't have a star. It's the star of Moloch, otherwise known as Baal, otherwise known as Satan or Lucifer. Okay? As a matter of fact, there's somebody else out there that came and put those puzzle pieces together. I forget who this individual is, but this was posted on X. Listen to this.
Churches should remove all Israeli flags from their congregation. Here's why.
Star of David, where does that symbol come from?
It's never written explicitly in the Bible itself.
Is it in the Talmud? Perhaps. Is there a passage in the Bible about that or no?
No.
Okay,
he's talking to rabbis, by the way. This guy is talking to some rabbis about the Star of David. They don't know where it came from.
So you're not really sure exactly where that comes from?
No. You got me.
Is it nobody knows, huh?
I don't know. I'm not, yeah.
Because I know it's called the Star of David.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with David?
No, I don't think so. There must be somewhere. I do not remember exactly what the association was.
Okay.
Well, you heard it from the rabbis themselves. The Star of David has nothing to do with David, and it has nothing to do with the Bible. And in fact, what people call the Star of David is actually what the Bible refers to as the Star of Remphan. And according to the Bible, it's actually a public declaration of your rejection of Jesus Christ. When God is reprimanding Israel for rejecting God and worshiping false gods, he tells them in Acts 7:43, "Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, figures which ye made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon." And this is precisely the reason why no Christian or church should have an Israeli flag in their congregation, since it literally represents a public rejection and opposition towards the Lord Jesus Christ.
Isn't that interesting? Yes, sir. It's not like you haven't heard this from yours truly before. But the bottom line here, folks, is that we have been lied to about so much. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. I don't understand how people can swallow this. Now, the thing is like you said, these are the quote-unquote fake Jews. And this is mentioned in Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. Now, I'm not trying to be, proselytizing here. I'm not trying to convert anybody here, beat on the Bible, etc., But this is, this is history. And again, it doesn't make any difference what I believe. It doesn't make any difference what you believe. What makes a difference is what they believe. And if they are going to have a religious excuse for doing what they do. It behooves us to look up what it is that motivates them. So the bottom line here is we have two different classifications of Jews. There's the real Jews, and then there's the quote-unquote fake Jews who don't go by the Torah, they go by the Talmud. And if you've done any research into the Talmud and looked at some of those verses, it's not a good thing. And these are the books that were basically compiled or created by this group of individuals, the Ashkenazis, the Khazars, and that's their Bible. This is what they go by. And people are now starting to realize how screwed up this is. Now, yours truly has been telling you many, many times over the past year, 2 years, about the genetic test that was done in Israel. Okay, it was published in the Jerusalem Post, over a year ago, that Johns Hopkins University did a DNA test on Israelis and found that 97.5% of them are not indigenous. They're from Eastern Europe. What a coincidence. Eastern Europe, Khazars, Ashkenazi, So they are 97% are from Eastern Europe and North America. They are not indigenous to the Middle East at all. They did the same DNA test to the Palestinians, and 80% of them are indigenous. Yeah. As a matter of fact, George Galloway referenced this recently on his broadcast on the BBC. Listen to this.
You're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel. There are Chinese Jews. I've met them. There are Vietnamese Jews. I've met them. They're not native to the land of Palestine. There are African Jews. They're not native to the land of Palestine either. There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land. I was viciously assaulted by a manager in the BBC who had recently converted to Judaism. It's fine, I love all religions, but you can't say I've now converted to Judaism and therefore I have a right to go to the land of Palestine and live in the house of someone whose ancestors have been living in it for thousands of years again.
So he's pointing out the exact same thing. People are waking up all over the world. And this issue about the Talmud, this is something now people are starting to realize how important this is. I mean, people have to understand this. Let me see if I can pull this up. Remember Ursula von der Leyen? She's the president of the EU. Yeah. And Ursula von der Leyen, I've played this. I will continue to play this very short clip. Ursula, what values do you have? What values are Europeans clinging to? Listen up.
Europe is the values of the Talmud.
Europe has the values of the Talmud. So who's taken over the European Union? This is, like I said, the Talmud was created by the quote-unquote, and I say quote-unquote, Jews of Eastern Europe. That's not from the Middle East. That's not from Jerusalem or Babylon or Palestine. This is a whole different belief system. Get that through. I'm going to play it again. Well, it won't let me play. Here we go. Oh, why isn't that playing? Oh, well, whatever. Bottom line here is that the Talmudic Jews are the ones that are in the limelight. Now, let's go back to World War II. Now, we all know, we were all told Hitler hated the Jews. Hitler was going to round them all up and kill them all. We already talked about the magic number 6 million in the gas chambers and the crematoriums and stuff like that, and we're finding out that we were lied to about that. Well, which Jews was he talking about? Which Jews was he fighting against? Was it the Middle Eastern Torah Jews? Or was it the Eastern European Talmudic Jews? Now we look at what baby Netanyahu and his regime is doing. And, I'm sorry to say this, but it looks like Bibi Netanyahu is in competition for, being the most ruthless murderer ever recorded. He's competing with Hitler. Now, Hitler was trying to fight these Talmudic Jews. And, Ken O'Keefe made reference to this. Now, Ken O'Keefe is, of course, a retired Marine and a patriot to the bone. Here's what Ken O'Keefe had to say.
Country very similar to ours today. Look at inflation, look at debt, look at crime, look at pedophilia, look at corruption in government, look at all these things. There is not a dissimilar situation between America today and Germany in the 1930s. When this man Adolf came to power, Germany was on its knees.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Now remember the musical Come to the Cabaret, Old Chum? Yeah, back in the 20s and 30s, Berlin had turned into a den of iniquity. I mean, there was homosexuality and there was promiscuity, and this is where transgender surgery began. And a lot of the wholesome, down-home Germans could see how the whole society was just going down the tubes. Now we see what's going on in this country. A lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, there's a lot of similar things going on here in the United States that were going on in Germany back in the 20s and 30s. And this is, we see all of these old films of Hitler giving his speeches. And he's shaking his fist around. Well, they put his speech through AI and translated it into English so you could hear his words in his voice. And if you listen to some of those speeches, you'll say, wait a second, stuff he was screaming about it's going on here in the United States. Anyway, let's let Ken O'Keefe continue. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I hate when that happens.
Country very similar to ours today. Look at inflation, look at debt, look at crime, look at pedophilia, look at corruption in government, look at all these things. There is not a dissimilar situation between America today and Germany in the 1930s. When this man Adolf came to power, Germany was on its knees. And within short order, within 2 years, 3 years, not only was Germany no longer a destitute nation, it had shed all of the debt that it never could have paid. Basically, Adolf said, fuck off to the bankers.
Said no to the Rothschild banks.
Maybe that's why they hate him. 6 million unemployed, right? All of them were employed within 3 years. 2 million homeless? All of them were housed within 2 years. The reason why they don't want you looking at World War II and Adolf is because the National Socialist policies, which they mislabeled Nazi, which is a derogatory term created by the Jews, effectively means country bumpkin imbecile.
Well, they yell that term and they want you to shut down without even discussing what it means.
You say Nazi,
what does it even mean? I don't even know what that means.
It's National Socialism. The answer for America today lies in the one place that everybody who is mind controlled will never look. Germany, and a man named Adolf. And again, let's go back to communism. Who created communism? The Jews. Is communism, Zionism, Judaism all the same root? Look at what we see playing out in Gaza today. This is genocide.
Yes, it is. It's genocide. Now, again, if the Old Testament Jews, the Jews of the Torah, and the Christians share the same 10 commandments and the same prophets, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the same God, and the same commandments, would the Old Testament Jews be participating in what's going on over there in Palestine right now? I don't think so. So which Jews have taken control? And not just in Israel, but all over the world. I just played that audio clip of Ursula von der Leyen saying that Europe has the values of the Talmud. So it is the imposters that have influenced all of the West right now. And they've been hiding behind this quote-unquote Star of David, which doesn't exist. And it's right in your face. It's in the Bible, the Star of Remphan, of Moloch. They worship a totally different God than the Old Testament Jews. And for the sake of the real Jews who are out there, I would hope and pray that they would stand up against the imposters. Because if they don't stand up against the imposters, when the chickens come home to roost and everybody goes up against Israel, and it's coming, folks, it is coming. People are seeing through it. And for the Old Testament Jews, you've got to stand up against this and unite with the protests and the pushback against the Israelis. because otherwise you're going to be condemned just like they will be. And more people are seeing it. And as a matter of fact, let me see, Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, she's talking about the control that unfortunately so many people are seeing, that these imposters are imposing on the entire West.
Israel controls the United States, and I meant it. How are you going to argue otherwise? Okay, almost every single lawmaker on the left or right does the bidding of the Israeli government, either because they are legally bribed by AIPAC, or they're afraid that AIPAC is going to target them in some political campaign so they don't win re-election. I believe there's also a possibility of a blackmail operation. Yeah, I mean, we do anything and everything Israel wants. Why are the United States taxpayers tasked with paying for the bombs and the military of a foreign government when that foreign government had an economic surplus in 2021? Yeah. The United States hasn't had an economic surplus since 2001. So yeah, our government is controlled by Israel.
That's right. It is. Look at AIPAC. I can only think of two off the top of my head. I know that there's a couple of others, but Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey are the only two that I can think of right now that have not taken money from AIPAC. Believe it or not, I think AOC has not taken money from AIPAC as well. Figure that one out. I don't know. But, we've got those three magic words that seem to be the tools of these monsters to take control.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Mm-hmm. Over and over and over again. All right, going to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And you got to check it out, folks. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. It's at our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page, and there's a window there that'll take you to the website from Get More Tank, and it'll show you all the specifications and details about how and why this stuff works. It's not a fuel additive. It's a fuel catalyst. Big difference. You start using this stuff, and the first thing that's going to happen is it'll start cleaning out your engine. And within about a tank, you'll notice that when you hit the gas, you go. You'll start to feel more power in your vehicle. And then over a period of time, over the next, say 3 or 4 tanks of gas, that's when you start to see the improved mileage. Anywhere between 15 and 20% increased mileage. And you do the math on that one. When you buy a package of Get More Tank, you get 5 tablets. If you get 20% better mileage, that means the 5th tank is free. So you spend $20, you end up with a free tank of gas. And plus your engine runs cleaner, smoother, more power. So this is a no-brainer, folks. If you're not using Get More Tank, I don't know why you're not. You should try this stuff out and, hey, Get More Tank. So go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and Get More Tank. All right, that said, staying on the subject here about the fakers who are out there, there are more and more people around the world that are realizing that what's going on over there in Palestine, and I'm not going to call it Israel because, I have my own reasons, but the genocide that's going in there, and again, I don't know if you heard it because there has been precious little coverage in our mainstream networks. They're not covering what happened over the past few days. The attack on the hospital there, the Nasser hospital, where there's doctors and patients Well, there was a missile strike and blew that up, and then all the first responders, and rescuers and journalists descended upon the scene. They ran in there to try to save whoever was surviving. And while they were getting, the survivors out and collecting the bodies of the dead, what do you know? 15 minutes later, after all the first responders and journalists were there, they hit them again and took out all of those journalists and all those first responders. Of course, Israel's saying, oh, this is a terrible mistake. We'll have to investigate ourselves and find out what happened. Yeah, right. I mean, this is just horrendous. They have killed over 260 journalists since this whole thing started. They don't want anybody there so they can have eyes on the, boots on the ground and eyes on what's going on so they can report to the world. That's why they're killing all the journalists, and now they're going in for their quote-unquote final push with their tanks and everything. And there's still hundreds of thousands of starving people there. I imagine in their minds, we're just going to put them out of their misery. And to hell with the Human Rights Commission, it doesn't apply to those Israelis because they don't see the Palestinians as humans. They don't see anybody aside from them as humans. You are Goyim. You are Amalek. You are less than human. You are subhuman. You're an animal. And that's what these people are taught from early childhood. So this is why, in their minds, they don't have to abide by anything that the Human Rights Commission says because we're not dealing with humans. This is their mindset. I mean, this is the insanity that's going on. And shame on the media, on the Western media. I mean, I've been tuning in now to Al Jazeera to at least get some sort of an idea of what's going on over there. And by the way, remember RT, Russia Today? It's the Russian equivalent of CNN. Well, you used to be able to get RT network. You used to, up until about 5 years ago, until they started all this garbage about Russian collusion, Russian collusion. And we now know that was all horse hockey. It was all bull crap. But you see, the thing is that as long as they could get by and saying Russia, they took RT off of the satellites. You can't get that on, what's it now? I don't even have satellite anymore. But, you can't even get it on Roku. You used to be able to get it on Roku. They took it off because we have free speech in this country. They don't want you to hear the other side of the story. And anybody who was watching RT or participating in RT was, of course, a Russian agent. People like Larry King. He's a Russian agent. Oh, yeah, right. Governor Jesse Ventura, he's a Russian agent. Yeah, right. Okay, Chris Hedges, former Pulitzer Prize winning writer for the New York Times, but the New York Times wouldn't let him report anymore. So RT gave him a platform, so that made him a Russian agent. And then there was Ed Schultz, who I met back in the 90s. He was a patriot to the bone. And he went from doing radio to MSNBC. And back in 2003, when he didn't agree with us going in there and bombing the crap out of Iraq, MSNBC paid off his contract and set him loose. Well, he ended up on RT. And there's all these American journalists that were drummed out of the domestic media because they wanted to practice journalism. They didn't want to participate in the propaganda machine, so they cut them all loose, and they ended up going to RT. And you can't get RT now. So anyway, that was just, I just wanted to, basically bolster and support what you're going to hear now. Shame on the U.S. media.
I speak to you today with total shame. I have never been more ashamed of our profession. This is also, the blood is on the hands of Western news organizations that systematically dehumanize Palestinians from the beginning, spreading lies about beheaded babies, talking about Palestinians as monsters and serving as conveyor belts for the lies of an Israeli regime intent on wiping the Palestinians off the map. And shame on some of these news organizations, Western news organizations, when their Palestinian journalists, the greatest journalistic heroes of our lifetime, are killed. They say, oh, well, they were just a freelancer. Oh, well, this was a contributor to us. And then they always have to put in that lie from Israel. Well, we're investigating. Oh, they had ties to Hamas. Shame on our profession, Sarah.
Mm-hmm. That's why yours truly starts off every single show with the song, You Won't Be Trusted Anymore. And I wrote and recorded that song 30 years ago because I was involved with that. In the late 80s, early 90s, I worked at WTNH Channel 8 in New Haven, Connecticut. Hey, Husky fans, you've got a front row seat of all the action of Big East basketball. Tonight is UConn meets Villanova right here on WTNH Channel 8. That's what I used to do. And when I was in the newsrooms during the first Gulf War, I saw firsthand the footage that was being beamed back from the Middle East during the first Gulf War, and I saw the carnage. I saw what was going on, and yet that night on the ABC News with Peter Jennings, he reported exactly the opposite what was going on. And that's what really motivated me. Was it didn't set a fire under my butt. There was a stick of dynamite strategically placed, and it just got me going. I said, wait a second. If you become aware of a lie and you do nothing to expose the lie, you become part of the lie. And that's why I decided I've got to get out there and start telling the truth. And I've been standing by that my entire professional career. And I got no skin in the game other than knowing that I got to look at myself in the mirror every single day and know that I'm standing in the light and I'm not hiding in the darkness. And it's up to all the listeners out there to do the same. And so you just heard how, I forget the name of the reporter that just said that. I believe he was on Al Jazeera, but his sentiments are being echoed by Abby Martin. And here's what she had to say.
These Western journalists will never even fathom what heroism is, what selflessness is. Because journalists in Gaza are the bravest human beings alive. They know that their work is a death sentence because Israel openly hunts them and threatens to kill them. But they do it out of duty to their people. Not only out of duty to their people, but out of defiance to the world that ignores their suffering, gaslights them, denies their reality. And they do it regardless. And that's something that I don't think anyone can really wrap their mind around. It's unfathomable. It's incomprehensible.
So there are good journalists out there. There are good media influencers out there that are trying desperately to get the truth out and wake up the dumbhead nong-nongs who have been consuming the blue Kool-Aid being shoved down their gullet 365, from the mainstream networks. I have nothing but contempt for them. And, like I said, people around the world, they are waking up. As a matter of fact, one of the members of the parliament in Australia, his name's Bob Carr, he had this to say about what's going on with, shall we say, the propaganda that's being thrown at us from Israel and the control that those who stand behind that star of Remphan, the star of Moloch, the star of Lucifer, for lack of a better term, the star of Baal. Here's what he had to say.
The Israel Jewish lobby in Australia is a foreign influence operation. It's designed to put the interests of Israel above the interests of Australia and its foreign policy. And no one else has an operation as well funded. No other country has an operation with offices in every Australian capital city. No one else organises donations to attempt to elevate its influence in the way the Jewish lobby does in Australia. Now, this is simply a fact of life, and the model for the Jewish lobby is what happens in the United States. If any member of Congress or the Senate expresses a view critical of Israel, you can guarantee that someone will be funded to run against them in the next primary. And the person they find to run against the incumbent will be a well-funded opponent.
Mm-hmm. So the people down under, they're waking up to it too. I'll tell you, the tide is turning. And it can't turn fast enough in my mind. People are waking up all over the world to what's going on with these Talmudists who call themselves Jews, but they are not. And again, my heart goes out to the real Jews who are out there because they're going to suffer the consequences unless they stand up and expose these imposters because they are committing horrendous crimes in their name. And that's why you see so many demonstrators out there who are Jewish out there screaming free Palestine. And I know that there are some brainwashed folks out there who are Jews, but they don't understand, and they're condemning the Jews who are condemning Israel. Everything is topsy-turvy, upside down, but I got to tell you, it's in the EU. Well, I just played a little while ago Ursula von der Leyen saying, Europe has the values of the Talmud. I don't think so. There is a gentleman who was speaking on the floor of the EU, and if I could pronounce his first name, it's Grzegorz Braun. This is what he had to say on the floor of the European Union. Listen carefully. He sees what's going on. Listen to this.
What we really need is denazification of the state of Israel.
Whoa, what did he say? The denazification of the state of Israel. Please do, carry on.
We need to see Netanyahu and his butchers facing tribunals. And if convicted, let's hope, facing gallows.
Whoa!
That's what we need. Mass murderers should be convicted. If not, there will be no peace. In Palestine, there will be no peace in the world. All the decent, peaceful people of this world need to see the Holocaust Haggadah, which is the main tool of Israeli and Jewish propaganda, studied, scientifically studied, not used as a tool of propaganda hybrid war. Let's ban Talmud, not TikTok. Thank you very much.
Let's ban the Talmud, not TikTok. Wow, they're getting it, folks. Like I said, the noticing is going on all over the world. And I'm hoping and praying with all my might that more people will open their eyes and pay attention and see what's going on and have the courage to stare the monster in the eyes, because you can't defeat the monster unless you've got that courage. And there are so many people who are being deceived. And what does it say in the Bible? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. People have got to become knowledgeable. They have to understand what's going on. And yes, again, I point out that, Ursula von der Leyen says Europe has the values of the Talmud, and she's president of the EU. Well, guess what? It's not just the EU. It's also the WHO. It's also the UN. Now, there's been talk about Trump wanting to pull out of the WHO, and I couldn't think of a better thing to do. Matter of fact, the WHO does not have humanity's best interests in mind. No, they do not. As a matter of fact, Sherry Tenpenny put out a red alert. Now, this is something that I'm going to have to play this almost every day for the next few days to get people to understand what's going on. Listen to what Sherry Tenpenny is saying. And I got the deepest respect. I used to interview her when I was doing the Power Hour many years ago. Anyway, here's Sherry Tenpenny. Listen carefully. Oh, what's going on? Why isn't that playing? Well, let's see. Got to back that up. Oh, I see why. Oh, okay. This is posted on Facebook, by the way. Yeah, I get a lot of my audio clips from social media posts, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, because I can't trust the mainstream networks. Yeah, sometimes I get it from them, But anyway, here's Sherry Tenpenny. Listen carefully. This is a red alert. People have to pay attention because, it's getting late in the game.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend called the Pact of the Future document. It's two parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact And if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed.
Listen.
Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation and memory hold.
Whoa.
Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared. Have water, food, digital access, flashlights, a way to communicate with family and friends. Now is really the time to get involved and get prepared, because this is what's coming. Our Congress is sitting on its hands. There was a press conference on the 17th about this, and no further action has been taken. So it's up to us to mobilize and to go forward, particularly with your local sheriffs, to get your constitutional sheriffs to say, this isn't going to be allowed in my county. Thank you very much. Take action. We've been talking about the onset of one world order, one world government, one world religion, one world money for a long time. Well, it's no longer coming. It's here.
My goodness. Thank you, Sherry Tenpenny, for putting it out there. That's where we are, folks. We're late in the game, and it's not like you hadn't been warned about it. No, sir. I did a song about 20 years ago, and I'm going to play it right now, and it's sort of like a history lesson. I hope you enjoy it.
And the big band swings. Recent victory from the big one rings in the front of everybody's minds. Revving up the post-war boom, blushing brides and eager grooms, hula hoops, roller skates, all is well in these United States. Playing with my rabbit ears and black and white TV. But now we channel surf and pay the cable company. Are things freer in America today than they were just 40 years ago? Elvis Presley swings his hips, Marilyn puckers up her lips. All is well in Camelot. fight. Let's see what's on the news tonight. A big election, what's my choice? Doesn't matter, I'm just one voice. So much corruption, nothing's fair. They won't change, why should I care? I'm just hanging on, look out for number one. And on the weekend maybe I can have some fun, yeah. Are things freer in America today than they were a couple years ago?
Broadcast stations we control induce complacency. The goal that people think that they are free. Distractions broadcast on TV. Our influence in Washington make people do what we want done. Eventually when we are through, they'll do just what we tell them to.
Corruption is enshrined, freedom falls for all mankind. Check the records, word and deed. Is there goal, control and greed? Common sense we should apply. Ask ourselves the question why. Integrity just falls away, and we don't have a word to say. By and for the people it's supposed to be. But non-involvement slowly leads to tyranny, yeah. Are we freer in America today than we were 200 years ago?
Half a century ago, a Nazi bid for world control, identifying every Jew by numbers that they would tattoo. Today we have technology and we've convinced them all to be submissive to their leadership and all receive a biochip.
Are we freer in America today than we were a couple years ago? Are we freer in America today than we were just 40 years ago? Are we freer in America today than we were 200 years ago?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Everybody, everywhere, sit back, relax, and get ready for the glorious dawning of a new world order. There's nothing that you have to do. We have everything under control. Just watch your TV, and we'll tell you what you need to know. There's not much, I promise. Pretty soon you'll have your very own biochip. Imagine, no more tax forms, no more medical records, no more bank books or paychecks, no more cares or worries. We've done it all just for you. With years of testing and research, we finally have all the answers, and we know what's best for all mankind. Simply follow directions given to you by your friendly local officials. They can guide you through the transition stage, and after you've complied with the basic introduction,
We can't wait for you to start to get honest. We can't wait for you to start to be true.
Okay, that's going to wrap it up for today's Wednesday Hump Day, Don't You Be a Chump and Crump Day version of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist. If you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or YouTube or whatever, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and share the word, spread the word. Word of mouth gets us around. That said, folks, that's going to wrap it up. So be safe, be free, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you all.
Roaches take flight as you turn